A very good morning to all of you. In this lecture, I shall first of all talk about Marxist criticism. Then we shall go ahead with an essay by Terry Eagleton on Marxist literary criticism. First of all, we need to understand what Marxism is. Uh, During your 10th standard, 12th standard, etc., high school or junior college days, or you had opted for history during your undergraduation, he must have studied Marxism either in economics or politics, or he must have studied Marxism in history as well. Uh, Now, first of all, we need to understand who was Karl Marx. Karl Marx was primarily a theorist and historian. He wrote books on theory and history. And in his writing, he examined social organization in a very methodological, systematic, that is scientific way. He talked about social organization, how a society is organized. He examined the class system, and by adopting this scientific method, he created a methodology for social science, especially political science. He was a political thinker and theorist. Karl Marx pursued human history to have consisted of a series of struggles between classes. Means he was a historian and he understood history as a series of struggles between classes. Now, classes means here I mentioned just a short while before upper class, lower class, etc. Means he talks about the struggles between the oppressed and the oppressing. The oppressed are the people who were exploited, who were tortured, and the oppressing were the people who exploited. That is the basic difference that we need to understand. For example, the upper class, especially the feudal class, the aristocratic class, were the oppressors, and the people belonging to working class were the oppressed or the oppressed. Now it means with reference to psychological criticism, we studied recently. In psychological criticism, sexual drive or sexual energy is the motivating factor behind every human behavior or human endeavor. Another critic, Nabokov, talked about the real factor behind art, the creation of art. He called it artistic impulse. Means art is an outcome of the artistic impulse. Whereas Freud was of the opinion that it is the sexual energy or drive which makes every human being to attempt to try for something. While Karl Marx thought that historical materialism was the ultimate driving force. Human endeavor is influenced by this historical materialism. Historical materialism is the ultimate driving force. Driving force here means something which encourages, something which forces you to act. And historical materialism, now materialism here refers to the aspiration to get money, wealth, etc. Bhautikvad, that is the Marathi term. to refer to materialism. So that was the driving force. Means every individual is driven by this materialism. So historical materialism is a notion which involves the distribution of resources or gain, profit, production, and other related matters. So, in terms of distribution of resources, resources means wealth, maybe natural wealth or man-made wealth. So, this the distribution of these resources, how these resources are distributed, and what are the profits earned by these resources, production, etc. Means it is related to resources. Now, what is the ideology? Marxist ideology. Ideology means ideas, this science which consists of different ideas. Logy stands for the scientific study of something, but here ideology means the formulation of ideas, how the ideas come into being. And what was Marxist ideology? Whatever whatever is natural, no, means we suppose that everything is natural, and you must be familiar with Charles Darwin theory of evolution. So natural political evolution, according to Marx, involved feudalism. Evolution means the gradual development, the slow development of something. Utkranti, that is the Marathi word used to refer to evolution. Utkranti means the very slow change, a very gradual change. And whatever natural, so-called natural political evolution took place, that consisted of feudalism. Feudalism is certain group of people dominated the overall social organization. In Marathi, feudal class is referred to as Saranjams. So this Samant Shahi or Saranjam Shahi was the part, and even in today as well, we can see the same. Certain political families dominate the scenario. Although we call it democracy, we think that that is quite natural. Therefore, I kept it into double into comma. Natural means we think that okay, that is natural. That a grandfather, then father, then grandson. So all of them get the right by birth to rule over the classes. Certain families, you must. Yes, it is more or less similar in every part of India, in every state of India, and on the national level as well. Means we accept it as a fact. So political evolution involves feudalism, dominance of certain group of people, and that leads to bourgeois capitalism. Now, bourgeois means the people belonging to middle class, especially upper middle class, who control the resources, who control the capital, means they control the national wealth, then the other related resources. Okay, so this natural political evolution involving feudalism leads to bourgeois capitalism. Means certain people control everything, and that leads to socialism, and finally to utopian communism. That is the ideology. Now we think that in India we have socialism, but you must have realized when we think in Marxist, in terms of Marxist ideology, it is a kind of bourgeois capitalism. Certain group of people control it, and whatever they think is becomes an ideal for other people, the followers. And this finally leads to Utopian. Utopia was a very famous book written by the Renaissance scholar, political thinker, writer Thomas More. If you have studied history of English literature, you must have come across the name of Utopia by Thomas More. He was a humanist and he had written a book named Utopia, an ideal state where everything is ideal. So, what Marx thinks is that, according to Marxist ideology, I can say, this is the outcome of feudalism and bourgeois capitalism. So, in bourgeois capitalism, the privileged bourgeois or bourgeois, the privileged means those who are in privileged position, established position. These privileged people rely on the proletariat. Proletariat means the working class. Now you should take note of these words, these terms: bourgeois, proletariat, then utopian communism, socialism, etc. So this group of people, they are called privileged bourgeois. I don't want to take the names of the families, but you can take the example of your own taluka, your own district, and just find out the names of the families dominating the overall political scenario. This is not the case with only with Ahmednagar. This is the case with almost every taluka, almost every district, and almost every state. Means in all states, as soon as you mention, certain names are mentioned. And these groups are called privileged bourgeois. And they rely on whom? The proletariat, the working class, the followers, the labor force, responsible for survival. Now, proletariat is a group of working class people or labor force. They just do everything for the sake of survival. So, Marx theory is that when profits are not reinvested in the workers but in creating more factories, the workers will grow poorer and poorer until no short-term passing is possible or successful. Now, this is the theory. What did he say? The profits earned from the resources are not reinvested in workers when they are not reinvested in the workers, but they are used for creating more factories. For example, we can see Ambani's and others. I'm just we know the families because they are highlighted, but there are many other families. At least they own certain industries. We can see it easily. Means they are industrialist, but there are certain political families. They don't run any business. Still, they control everything. Means they have money, they have wealth. Where does it come from? Nobody asks. Okay, so the workers will grow poorer and poorer until no short-term patching is possible. No efforts are taken to patch it up. So at a crisis point, revolt will lead to a restructuring of the system. If this continues, then there will be a revolt, a rebellion against this system to restructure. So that is what happened in Russia, in China, and some other countries where Marxist ideology was followed and communism was, implemented. So when we talk about a political system which is communist, in India we don't have communism, we have socialism, so called, of course. So the underclasses must own the means of production. When you want, we call something as communist the underclasses. Underclasses means the working class, the work class or lower middle class, etc. The class which does not have any any power, any control on anything. So in communism, the underclasses must own the means of production, not the government, not the police force. That's what Marxist ideology says. In the next part of my discussion, we shall be talking about what communism is.